I'm also live on Periscope. This is my daily MLB DFS breakdown. It'll cover Draftkings, Fanduel, and even some fantasy draft. I typically start with pitchers, move my way through the positions, and then I talk about tournament stacks at the very end. Draftkings pitching is pretty straightforward from what I can tell. My optimizer is going with Luke Weaver and Corey Kluber. There's going to be some debate as to whether you should pay up for Corey Kluber or not. You can easily drop down to a few other options, most notably Zach Godley, who gets a matchup against a horrible New York Mets team, and Andrew Heaney, who faces off against Texas and has a friendly ballpark. So those are the only options on DraftKings. As of right now, I lean towards paying for Kluber, even though he has a tough matchup against the Red Sox. But things can easily change. I could see Godley making his way up there, and I could also see Heaney. Luke Weaver is the lock of the night. I don't think you can fade him against San Diego in cash games on DraftKings, so I would go ahead and lock him in. Severino rates fairly well. I consider him more of a tournament option. I think in cash, if you're going to pay up, you need to go with Kluber or Godley. Severino's price just a little bit too high, and he doesn't get the friendly ballpark that some of these other guys get. Over on FanDuel, I'm running the optimizer right now, but my best guess is it's probably going to go with Kluber, either that or Weaver. I haven't seen Weaver's price over there. Give me just a few seconds, and I'll have some results for you. But yeah, to whoever asked about Severino, tournaments only for me. On FanDuel, my optimizer's going with Corey Kluber early on. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stick with him, but again, on FanDuel, you're pretty much forced into taking the top-priced option, the guy that rates well just about every night. Weaver over there is 7.8K, and Kluber's 11. So you're getting about a 3K discount to drop to Weaver. Personally, I do not think that that's worth it. I have Kluber rated at 41 fantasy points on FanDuel, so I would probably roll with that, even though Heaney and Weaver are much better values. I honestly would prefer to drop to Heaney in tournaments and load up on bats over on FanDuel. I think on FanDuel, it's a three-man race in tournaments. If you're building around GPPs, I would put each guy at 33% exposure, which basically means that you'll have each one of them in 33% of your lineups. If you use the optimizer on dailyfantasylines.com, which is my website, you can set the exposure and run as many lineups as you want. But for FanDuel, I would definitely use Kluber, Weaver, and Heaney as my three pitchers. If you want to go with more than three, then I would include Severino and Godley, but I don't think that's necessary. You want to condense your pitcher pool as much as possible. So in tournaments on FanDuel, Kluber, Weaver, Heaney are the only three guys that I would really look at. Moving on to catcher, I'm going to look at DraftKings first. As of right now, it looks like Sanchez is the highest rated catcher. No surprise there. He's on fire. I really have no issues with rostering him. If you're looking for a value guy early on, and this is likely going to change as the day goes on, but Alex Avila and Jason Castro are two of the better values on DraftKings. If I look over on FanDuel, I'm seeing a lot of Gary Sanchez. He's only 3.5K over there. I would go ahead and say that that's a lock for tonight. At 3.5K, you can fit him comfortably with Corey Kluber, and if you drop down to any other pitchers, it's really easy to fit him in. If you want an alternative, Alex Avila is 2.8K, and he's in a great matchup and a good ballpark. So those are the only two guys to consider on FanDuel and cash games. Again, I'll get to tournament stacks as we move on throughout the show. Looking at first base, I'm going to go ahead and start with DraftKings. I'm seeing a lot of Tommy Joseph. And a lot of, I don't know how to say this guy's name, Rice Hoskins, the rookie for Philly. It looks like both of those guys are rating really well. 2.5K for Joseph, 3.8K for Hoskins. I think both of those guys are firmly in play on DraftKings, and I think you're going to need some value there. But just in case you don't, Anthony Rizzo and Freddie Freeman are two of the top options, but I really like Hoskins and I really like Joseph tonight. I think they're both in a great spot, and I don't think you need to pay that extra money to get up to Rizzo. Now, if you're going to fade Corey Kluber and you're going to go with, the value guys in Heaney and Weaver, or even Godley and Weaver, I think that Rizzo and Freeman are definitely the top options. Rizzo's a little hotter, a little more hot with the bat, so I would probably go that route, and he's in a better ballpark. So Over on Fanduel at first base, if you're paying for Kluber, Tommy Joseph is 2.1K. You really can't go wrong with that. If you're going to go with Kluber, I think you have to go ahead and lock in Tommy Joseph early on at least. We'll see some things change as we move on throughout the day. On Fanduel, Anthony Rizzo is the top option if you're spending down at pitcher, and Freddie Freeman and Paul Goldschmidt are not far behind. You could even make a case for Matt Carpenter at 3.5K on Fanduel. I think that's a great price against the Padres. Moving on to second base on DraftKings, Yoan Moncada and Cesar Hernandez are the top two options. Moncada's coming off a big game. I saw he had at least 2 doubles last night. That's another guy that I faded against my optimizer, which was a horrible idea. I should have just left him in my lineups. But Yoan Moncada and Cesar Hernandez are the best value options at second base. This is typically a position where we pay down, but if you do want to spend up, you've got Brian Dozier, Jose Altuve, Cano, D. Gordon, the usual suspects at second base. But if you're going with Kluber at all, you're going to have to spend down here. And the value is certainly there with Moncada and Cesar Hernandez, who are for sure going to get good lineup spots tonight. Over on Fanduel, hold on one second. There we go. Over on Fanduel at second base, D. Gordon's grossly underpriced at 3.2K. I really like that price point. You can fit him in with Kluber and Sanchez with relative ease. If you don't want to spend 3.2K, you've got Moncada at 2.8. You can even look at Daniel Murphy at 3.6K. But, obviously the Nats are struggling, and they haven't been hitting that well as of late. Yeah. I think Philly's probably the number one stack if you're paying up at pitcher. I don't really think there's a debate there. But yeah, there's only 3 second basemen on FanDuel to consider as of right now. D. Gordon, Moncada, and Daniel Murphy, probably in that order. I'm going to move on to third base, and then I'll touch on shortstop, just because that's the way the positions go on DraftKings and FanDuel. I'm seeing a lot of Freeman at 4.8K. I know he had at least a double the other night. I haven't paid much attention because I quit rostering him for a while. At 4.8K, that's a pretty good price point for Freddie, for Buzz. So I'm okay with that. It looks like Chris Bryant's not on the lineup tonight. I just got a DK alert, so I don't see him making any lines as of right now, but that's something to consider. What's up, Dinkelman? It's pretty much it at third base on DraftKings. Freeman, Franco, you're seeing, basically all Phillies and then Freddie Freeman here. Sing the hymn of the United States. I don't know what you mean. Over on FanDuel, third base, Maikel Franco is 2.5K. If you're going with Kluber, I think that's the direction you have to go. It's going to give you a ton of salary relief. And again, the Phillies are in a great matchup. If you're spending up, Nolan Arenado is my top rated third baseman over on FanDuel. He's 4.1K, which is really absurd. You probably can't afford that if you're going with Kluber, but if you're spending down, you can definitely get him in. Jake Lamb, 3.7K. That's a little more affordable. I'd probably go that route if spending up on FanDuel with Jake Lamb, $400 cheaper than Nolan Arenado. And then you've got Turner, Donaldson, Beltre. None of those guys are really in consideration for cash games, but Kyle Seager, 3.3K, is a strong option over there. I'm going to move on to shortstop. I'm seeing DraftKings optimizers, my DraftKings optimizer, pay up at shortstop with Gene Segura for the most part. 4.1K. I have him rated at 7.6 fantasy points. That's really strong. Also, Corey Seager at 4.4K is making some of my builds as well. I'm sure some value will open up at the position, but again, I'll touch on that on the later show at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. For those that are at work right now and can't tune in, be sure to hop on that one. Moving on to the outfield, I'm seeing a lot of mid-tier guys on DraftKings, and also it looks like it's pairing them with Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is still underpriced at 4.6K, so I really like that option. I think I accidentally skipped shortstop on FanDuel. Gene Segura, Eduardo Escobar are the top 2 shortstops over there. I'm seeing Schwarber and Kepler on both Fanduel and Draftkings. That's typically a really good sign. That means that they're really good plays if they're popping up on both websites. So Schwarber, Kepler. I'm seeing a lot of Jose Bautista on DraftKings where he's only 3.1K. That's a steal at 3.1K, and there's a good chance he makes my optimals. Again, when you're looking at roster construction, if you're considering dropping down to 2 value guys, you have to look at guys like Jose Bautista and wonder why you would ever need to spend up an extra 2K to get somebody else. 3.1K really affords you a lot of salary relief. You can still get Sanchez and Freeman and Segura, Schwarber. You can get all those guys in your lineup. So Bautista is probably the value of the night over on DraftKings as of right now. I really like Aaron Judge and Schwarber. Judge is 4.6K. Schwarber's 4.2K. Stanton at 5.7K just continues to scorch the earth. I think he's at 46 or 47 home runs now. Something stupid like 12 dongs in his last 15 games. At 5.7K, it looks like I have some builds with Kluber that actually fit in Giancarlo Stanton. So if you want to go that route and spend that kind of money on him, it seems like there's a good chance that you're getting a home run from him every night at this stage. You wonder when teams are going to start pitching around him, but I haven't seen it yet. Absolutely, Robinson. I think a Red Sox stack is one of the top contrarian stacks of the night. Kluber's going to be popular like he always is. I believe they're in Boston. I'll have to double check. Yeah, they're in Boston, I believe. So if they are, that's a huge ballpark downgrade and just another reason to stack the Red Sox against him. Kluber is basically 100% reliant on his slider, and there's nights where his slider doesn't work and he gets absolutely shelled. But he's more of an all or nothing pick. He's either going to go off or he's going to get, destroyed early on. So I think if you want to throw in a few Red Sox stacks to kind of counteract your Kluber ownership, I'm fine with that. It looks like Hoskins actually has outfield eligibility on FanDuel, which is really cool. So you can build around Hoskins and Tommy Joseph over there. I'm seeing them in most of my lineup builds. Hoskins at 3.1K, Joseph at 2.1K. It feels odd stacking Phillies, but the matchup's great for them tonight. That's pretty much it as far as the positions go. If you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in real quick. I'm going to go ahead and move on to team stacks. And real quick, I keep up with what's going on in the world, and I don't know if anybody saw this, but did you guys see ESPN move the Asian American announcer Robert Lee to a different game because of what happened in Charlottesville? Did anybody see this? Asian American guy named Robert Lee, an announcer for ESPN, they forced him to move to a different game. I think it was a University of Virginia college game because his name was Robert Lee. If you haven't seen that, that's absolutely absurd. And just another reason why I don't pay attention to ESPN. I don't know how anybody watches ESPN anymore, to be completely honest. Yeah, I haven't watched them in a long time. When I was a kid, all I did was watch ESPN, but they've brought politics into everything that they do. All over my Facebook feed, all I see is Kaepernick and Browns players kneeling, and then I saw this Asian American guy, named Robert Lee, and they wouldn't let him call the game. Absolutely absurd. Let's see. Stacks. We mentioned Philadelphia. The Phillies are a great stack tonight. I usually don't like to stack them, but their price is really low. I think you can go with a double ace, which is going to be a very uncommon tournament build. But I think you could stack Philly with a double ace of Kluber and Severino and have just an incredible amount of upside if you want to go that route tonight. That's probably my favorite tournament build. I don't think anybody's going to be on it. It's always nice to get unique builds. So I'm a pretty big fan of that. The Cubs are going to be a big-time stack tonight. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, pretty much. The Twins, I like the Yankees, Astros. I really like I really like the Twins tonight. I don't think they're going to be that high owned. I think the Twins are in a great spot. I like the Marlins, but the Phillies are my number one stack. I don't think they're going to be high owned. I think you can get any pitching you want. You can even stack the Phillies with guys like Giancarlo Stanton, and probably still go double ace because they're so cheap. So that's probably my favorite contrarian build of the night is the Phillies. For those that are hopping in late, I'm going to post this on YouTube. You can also view it. You can view it on Facebook Live. dailyfantasylines.com is the Facebook page, or you can follow my news personality page, which is facebook.com/DFL Jericho. I do have a 3-day trial for my website, dailyfantasylines.com. For any new subscribers, if you want to try that out, just shoot me a message or use the customer service chat on the website. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. I'll be back at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time to help break down the rest of the slate and talk about values and weather and things of that nature before locks. But thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow on Twitter and Facebook, and I'll catch up with you guys.